I watched my own hand sign away everything I owned, and I felt nothing. Nothing at all. My fingers moved across the paper like they belonged to someone else. My signature looked foreign. My reflection in the window behind the lawyer showed a man I did not recognize. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, a puppet whose strings had been pulled so tight they had become invisible. She stood beside me smiling. That smile I once thought was love. That smile I now understand was ownership. And in her pocket, I knew it was there. The toy. That stupid, cheap, plastic thing that somehow contained pieces of my soul I did not remember giving away. You need to hear this story. Not because it is extraordinary, but because it is terrifyingly ordinary. Because right now, somewhere in this world, someone is being handed their own toy. Someone is being told it means protection. Someone is laughing at how silly it seems while something ancient and patient begins its work. I am going to tell you exactly how I lost myself. And more importantly, I am going to tell you exactly how I found my way back from a darkness so complete I forgot what light looked like. My name is Ruis. I was 32 years old when I met her. A software developer, decent apartment in the city, friends I grabbed drinks with on Fridays, a mother who called too much and a father who called too little. Nothing special about my life, nothing that would make you think I was vulnerable to what happened next. But that is the first lie we tell ourselves, is it not? We think monsters choose damaged people. We think cults recruit the weak. We think abusers target the obviously broken. We are wrong. They target the lonely parts in confident people, the tired parts in successful people, the parts that just want someone to finally understand. I had those parts. Everyone does. I met her at a coffee shop, one of those moments that feels scripted by the universe. She was reading the same obscure book I had just finished. She laughed at the same passage I had underlined. When she spoke, her voice seemed designed specifically for my ears. Her name was Vera, and for the first 3 months, she was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. She remembered tiny details I mentioned once and brought them up weeks later. She anticipated my moods before I felt them. She said things like, "I have never connected with anyone the way I connect with you," and my chest would expand with a warmth I thought I had stopped believing in. She made me feel chosen. Let me tell you something about feeling chosen. It is the most dangerous feeling in the world, because once someone makes you feel uniquely selected, uniquely understood, uniquely valued among all the ordinary people who never truly saw you, you will do almost anything to keep that feeling. You will ignore red flags the size of buildings. You will translate cruelty into concern. You will call imprisonment intimacy. I did all of these things. But first, there was the toy. It appeared about 4 months into our relationship. A small thing, maybe 3 inches tall, vaguely humanoid but wrong somehow. The proportions were off. The face was smooth where features should have been. The plastic was that cheap kind that smells like chemicals and probably came from a factory with no safety standards. Vera presented it to me like it was sacred. "I want you to have this," she said. "It belonged to my grandmother. She was a very spiritual woman, very connected to things most people cannot see." I almost laughed. I wish I had laughed. Instead, I saw how serious her eyes were, how she held the ugly little thing like it might shatter, how she seemed to be offering me not just an object but a test. "It protects," she said. "It keeps away the energies that try to separate people who are meant to be together, but only if you keep it close, only if you believe in what we have." I was not a superstitious person. I did not believe in energies or spiritual protection or any of the things she was suggesting, but I believed in her. In that moment, I believed in us so completely that I would have accepted anything she handed me. "Keep it on your nightstand," she said, "or in your pocket, just keep it near." I took the toy, and something shifted. Not dramatically, not in any way I could point to and say, "There, that is the moment everything changed." It was subtler than that. It was like a door in my mind that had always been locked quietly clicked open, and something cold began seeping through. That first night, I placed the toy on my nightstand as she asked. I fell asleep looking at its blank face and dreamed of hallways that went nowhere. I woke up exhausted. The toy had not moved, but somehow it seemed closer to the bed than I remembered placing it. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Over the next few weeks, I noticed small changes. When I was near the toy, I felt calmer, more centered, like everything in my life was exactly where it should be. But when I was away from it, when I went to work and left it at home, anxiety would creep up my spine, a nagging feeling that I had forgotten something essential, that something was wrong. I started carrying it with me, just in my bag at first, then in my jacket pocket. Then, because the anxiety worsened when it was not directly against my skin, in my pants pocket where I could touch it throughout the day. My coworkers noticed I seemed distracted. My friends noticed I was less available. My mother noticed my voice had changed, though she could not explain how. But Vera noticed that I was finally becoming who I was supposed to be. "You seem so much more present," she told me. "So much more aligned. This is the real you. This is who you were always meant to be." And when she said it, I believed it. The isolation began so gradually. I did not recognize it as isolation. First, it was my friend Marcus. Vera mentioned casually that she found him exhausting, that his energy was chaotic, that being around him left her feeling drained, and she worried about how that energy might affect us. I defended him at first. We had been friends since college. He was loud and sometimes thoughtless, but fundamentally good. But the next time I saw Marcus, I found myself noticing things I had never noticed before. How he interrupted me, how he made jokes at my expense, how he never really listened when I talked about Vera, just waited for his turn to speak. I started making excuses not to see him. Then it was my sister, then my book club, then the guys from work who wanted to grab lunch. One by one, Vera helped me see the flaws in everyone around me. The jealousy, the negativity, the way they were all in their own ways trying to pull me away from my authentic path. Within 6 months, she was essentially my only close relationship. And I was grateful. That is the part people do not understand. I was genuinely, deeply grateful that she had helped me clear away all the noise and distraction, that she had shown me who really deserved my energy and who was just using me. I thanked her for isolating me. I loved her for it. The financial control came next. Vera had theories about money, about how attachment to material things blocked spiritual growth, about how true partners shared everything, about how my bank accounts, separate from hers, represented a fundamental lack of trust in our bond. When she put it that way, I felt ashamed. Of course I should share my finances with her. What was I holding back for? What was I afraid of? Did I think she would take advantage of me? Did I not trust the person I claimed to love? I added her to my accounts. I gave her my passwords. I stopped checking balances because she assured me she was handling our finances and I should focus on my work, my growth, our relationship. Months later, when I finally looked, $80,000 had disappeared. But by then I was so deep in her version of reality that I believed her explanations. Investments in our future, payments to spiritual advisors who were helping us, donations to causes that would bring good karma. I nodded and I touched the toy in my pocket and I felt peace. That is what the toy did, you see. Whenever doubt crept in, whenever something felt wrong, I would touch it and the doubt would dissolve, like fog burning off under morning sun. The wrongness would fade and certainty would take its place. Certainty that Vera loved me. Certainty that she knew best. Certainty that my old self, the one who might have questioned this, was the broken version. The toy was not magic in any supernatural sense. At least, I do not think it was. But it became a trigger, a physical anchor for the mental state she had trained me into. Every touch reinforced my submission. Every glance at its featureless face reminded me of who I belonged to. I was being conditioned, and I did not know it. The job was the last thing to go. I had been a successful developer, good reviews, decent salary, colleagues who respected my work, but Vera had concerns. "Your boss is threatened by you," she said. "They are keeping you small. They are using your talents without compensating you properly. And the stress, my love, the stress is aging you. I can see it in your face." She could see everything in my face that she wanted to see. I started calling in sick, then working from home, Then missing deadlines because Vera needed me for something, always something that seemed more important than whatever corporate nonsense was demanding my attention. When they let me go, she held me and told me it was a blessing. "Now you are free," she whispered. "Now you can focus on what matters." What mattered, apparently, was following Vera's instructions. Cooking when she told me to cook, cleaning when she told me to clean, speaking when she gave me permission, and staying silent when she did not. I had become something less than a person. I had become a function, and the toy was always watching. I know how that sounds. Paranoid, disturbed, but I swear to you, sometimes I would catch it in my peripheral vision and it seemed to have moved. Sometimes I would hear something at night, a small scratching or tapping, and in the morning the toy would be facing a different direction. Vera said it was responding to energies in the house. Vera said it was doing its job. Vera said I should be grateful for its protection. I stopped questioning because questioning hurt, literally hurt. When I started to doubt Vera, headaches would bloom behind my eyes, my chest would tighten, my throat would close. My body had been turned against my mind, or maybe my mind had been turned against itself. Some nights I would lie awake and try to remember who I used to be. I could see him distantly, like a photograph of a stranger. That man who had friends and hobbies and opinions and a future. That man who laughed loudly and argued passionately and made decisions without asking permission. I mourned him, but I also believed he was a lie. The real me, Vera said, was this: quiet, obedient, devoted. The real me was empty enough for her to fill. The night that changed everything did not start with anything dramatic. I was out walking. Vera had sent me to get something from a store across town, something she could have easily ordered online, something that required me to wander specific streets in a specific order, because the route mattered for reasons I did not question. I had no phone. She had taken it months before for my own good, because screens disrupted spiritual wavelengths. I had no money in my pocket except exactly what she gave me for the errand. I had no identification because she kept important documents in a safe I did not have the combination to. I was a ghost, moving through a city that had forgotten me. And then I walked past her shop. It was small, easy to miss, wedged between a laundromat and an empty storefront with soaked windows. A sign above the door showed a hand with an eye in the palm. Below it, hand-painted letters read, "Madame Saurin, Cards and Counsel." I had walked this route before, many times, but I had never noticed the shop. Or maybe I had never been allowed to notice. The door opened as I passed, not because someone was coming out, not because of wind. It just opened slowly like an invitation or a dare. I stopped walking. Something in my chest, some tiny surviving fragment of the person I used to be, whispered, "Go in." But Vera's voice in my head was louder, "Keep walking. Complete your task. Do not deviate." I stood frozen on the sidewalk for what felt like hours, but was probably seconds. Two versions of myself fighting for control of a body neither fully owned anymore. Then I walked through the door. The inside of the shop smelled like incense and old paper. Shelves lined the walls, crowded with candles and bottles and bundles of dried herbs. In the center of the room was a small round table covered in dark velvet, and behind it sat a woman who looked like she had been waiting for me for years. She was old, wrinkled in the way of someone who had spent decades squinting into uncomfortable truths. Her eyes were dark and sharp, and they found me immediately, pinned me like a butterfly to a board. "Sit," she said. It was not a request. I sat. She did not ask my name. She did not ask why I was there. She simply reached across the table and grabbed my wrist, turning my hand over to examine my palm. Her fingers were cold. Her grip was stronger than it should have been. "You are carrying something that isn't yours," she said. Something in my chest collapsed. Not metaphorically. I felt it physically, a structure I had not known existed suddenly buckling. My eyes burned with tears I did not understand. "I don't know what you mean," I said, but my voice broke on the words and we both knew I was lying. She released my wrist and reached for a deck of cards. They were old, worn soft at the edges. She shuffled them without looking at them, her eyes never leaving my face. "You know exactly what I mean," she said. "You have known for a long time, But knowing is different from admitting, and admitting is different from doing something about it. She laid 3 cards on the table. The first showed a figure chained to a pillar, a devil or demon crouching above them. But looking closer, I saw the chains were loose. The figure could slip free at any time. They simply did not know it, or they had forgotten they had hands. "The devil," she said, "but not the devil you think, not evil from outside. This is bondage you chose. This is a cage with no lock." The second card showed a figure with strings attached to its limbs, suspended from crossed bars above. A puppet, but the puppet's eyes were open, aware, watching its own performance with something that might have been horror. "The marionette," she said. "You see what is being done to you. Part of you has always seen, but seeing and acting are different languages, and you have forgotten how to translate." The third card showed a tower being struck by lightning, figures falling from windows, stone crumbling, everything built destroyed in an instant. "The tower," she said. "What is coming? What must come? Not destruction for its own sake, but destruction of what was false, so that something true can grow in the ruins." I stared at the cards and felt the toy in my pocket. It seemed heavier than before, colder, like it knew it was being discussed and did not like it. "I don't understand," I said, though I did. Though I understood completely and had for months and had chosen not to understand, because understanding meant acting and acting meant destroying everything I had built my life around, even if that life had become a prison. The old woman leaned forward. "What is in your pocket?" My hand moved to cover it instinctively, protectively, the way you shield something precious from threat. "Nothing," I said. "Show me." "No." The word surprised me. I had not said no to anyone in so long. The sound of it in my own voice was foreign, almost frightening. But she just nodded, like my refusal proved something she already knew. "You protect it," she said. "Even now, even knowing what it costs you. Because she has made you believe your destruction is your safety. She has made you love your chains." Something cracked inside me, some wall I had built without knowing it. "Who are you?" I whispered. "Someone who has seen this before," she said. "Too many times. The details change, but the pattern stays the same. Someone is given a gift that becomes an anchor. Someone is loved into submission. Someone wakes up one day and realizes they cannot remember their own name without permission." I was crying now, properly crying, tears running down my face in a way they had not done since childhood. "How do I stop it?" She reached across the table and took my hands. Her grip was gentle this time, warm. "This ends when you remember who you were before you obeyed." Before I obeyed. The words echoed in my skull. Before I obeyed. When was that? Who was that person? I tried to reach back to find him, but Vera's voice filled every corner of my memory, editing and annotating and explaining why each moment before her was false. "I can't remember," I said. "I don't know who that was." "You do," she said. "He is still there. Buried but not dead. Silence but not gone. You have felt him, haven't you? In moments when doubt slips through. In nights when something in you screams that this is wrong. That voice is him. That doubt is your survival instinct trying to save you." I thought of the nights I lay awake. The moments I almost questioned Vera before the headaches came. The times I caught my reflection and did not recognize what looked back. "He is so far away," I said. "Then start walking," she said. "Step by step, question by question. You do not have to destroy everything tonight. You just have to start. You just have to stop building her prison higher." She let go of my hands and stood. "I can't do this for you," she said. "No one can. The puppet must cut its own strings. But I can tell you that you are not crazy, that what was done to you was real, that you are allowed to want to be free." I sat in that chair for a long time after she walked into the back room. The cards stayed on the table. The devil, the marionette, the tower. And in my pocket, the toy seemed to pulse. I took it out, looked at it in the dim light of the shop. It was just plastic, cheap, ugly, the kind of thing you would find in a dollar store and forget about immediately. But holding it, I felt the anxiety rise, the sense that I was doing something wrong, that Vera would know, that there would be consequences. I put it back in my pocket, but something had changed. Some crack had formed in the certainty she had built around me. And cracks, once started, tend to spread. I walked home slowly. Vera was waiting. She asked about the errand and I gave her the item she requested. She did not ask where I had been for the extra hour. Maybe she did not notice. Maybe she assumed I had simply walked slowly, obeying her instructions about the route. That night, I did not take out the toy. I left it in my jacket pocket across the room. And when the anxiety came, when the wrongness pressed against my chest, I did not reach for it. I named it instead. This is conditioning, I said quietly to myself in the dark. This is a trained response. This is something that was done to me. It is not truth. It is not reality. It is a pattern that can be broken. The anxiety did not disappear, but it became somehow smaller, more manageable, like a bully who suddenly realizes you might fight back. Over the next weeks, I practiced. When Vera spoke, I did not automatically agree. I stayed silent instead, not arguing, not confronting, just not performing agreement, just letting her words exist without immediately absorbing them as truth. When she reached for the toy, which she did often now, casually touching it as if to remind me of its presence, I looked away. I refused to watch. I refused to let the gesture pull me back into compliance. When fear rose, when my body screamed that I was in danger, I spoke to it like a frightened child. I know, I would whisper. I know you're scared, but we are allowed to question. We are allowed to think. We are allowed to exist without permission. Vera noticed. Of course she noticed. I was quieter, less responsive, less eager to fulfill her needs before she expressed them. The version of me she had created was malfunctioning, and she did not know why. You seem distant, she said one evening. Is something wrong? No, I said. Are you sure? You know you can tell me anything. Yes. She watched me for a long moment. Then she picked up the toy from the table where it sat between us and held it in her hands, turning it over, examining it. You haven't been keeping this close, she said. I can tell your energy is off. A year ago, this would have sent me spiraling into apology, into frantic reassurance, into whatever behavior she needed to see to feel secure in her control. But something in me had changed. I've been busy, I said, distracted. Distracted by what? Just thinking. The word hung between us. Thinking. Something she had systematically discouraged. Something that threatened everything she had built. What are you thinking about? Her voice was careful now, controlled. The voice she used when she sensed danger. Myself, I said, who I used to be, what I want. She set the toy down. Her eyes were cold in a way I had never seen before, or maybe in a way I had seen countless times but refused to acknowledge. What you want is us, she said. What you want is this. We've been through so much together. You've grown so much. Why would you want to go backwards? Before, I would have agreed, would have apologized for even suggesting I wanted anything other than what she had decided. But the old woman's words echoed in my skull. This ends when you remember who you were before you obeyed. I don't know yet, I said. I'm still figuring it out. And then I stood up, and I walked out of the room, and I did not ask permission. It sounds small, walking out of a room, not asking permission. But for someone who has lived in invisible chains, every act of autonomy is revolutionary. Every assertion of independent will is an earthquake. Behind me, I heard her call my name, heard the confusion in her voice, heard the beginning of anger, of strategy, of whatever approach she would use to pull me back. But I kept walking, and for the first time in over a year, I felt something I barely recognized. I felt like myself. The next weeks were the hardest of my life. Vera shifted tactics constantly. She was loving, she was cold, she was wounded, she was furious. She threatened to hurt herself. She threatened to expose secrets she claimed I had told her. She promised things would change. She just needed me to come back, to trust her again, to be who I was supposed to be. In every tactic I recognized, not because I had read about manipulation, not because someone had warned me, but because I had lived it. Because once you step outside the pattern, you can see it with terrible clarity. She was not reacting to me as a person. She was running programs, control scripts. If this, then that. Each attempt to pull me back into her orbit was mechanical, predictable, almost sad in its desperation. And the toy helped her less and less. I had stopped carrying it entirely, left it in the apartment when I walked, put it in a drawer I did not open. The anxiety still came, the conditioning still fired, but I was learning to sit with discomfort instead of rushing to make it stop. Discomfort is not danger. Anxiety is not truth. A body trained to fear can be trained to be brave. One night, about a month after my visit to Madame Sarin, I sat alone in the living room while Vera slept. The toy was in its drawer. The apartment was quiet. I looked at my hands, these hands that had signed away my savings, that had carried an object of control, that had done everything she asked without question for more than a year. They were still my hands. I was still in there. Buried but not dead, the old woman had said. Silenced but not gone. I started making plans. Not dramatic plans,